One of the main issues we deal with in my play, Garage Door Opener, is the fact that the Nisei dad was a Tule Lake no-no boy. Now for years, the Tule Lake no-nos have been ostracized and stigmatized as disloyal, good-for-nothing troublemakers, and pretty much omitted from Japanese American history. Now for our theater group, the Grateful Crane Ensemble from Los Angeles, to go to the 2018 Tule Lake pilgrimage and perform this play in front of a room full of no-no descendants and my 95-year-old no-no dad, it was a big deal. And it was an honor, especially to see the reaction of this room full of no-no people as they saw their story unfold on stage at last. And instead of shame, they could hold their head up high, knowing that no-no wasn't such a bad thing after all. And that no-no was and is their right to protest. And that the no-no spirit is in their DNA and part of who they are. It turns out the 2018 Tule Lake pilgrimage was my dad's last, as he passed away last fall. So I dedicate this to him, and I hope you enjoy this performance of Garage Door Opener. Anyway, good evening and welcome to the reading and discussion of my play called Garage Door Opener. Before we get started, I wanted to thank the Tule Lake Committee, Hiroshi Shimizu, Barbara Takei, and Dr. Satsuki Ina for bringing us up from Los Angeles. Let's hear it for all of us. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank my parents, Hiroshi and Soji Kashiwagi, for all their love and support. Many of you saw my dad last night read his poem. Yeah, so I'm his second son. Actually, there's a third son, Hiroshi F. Kashiwagi. I want to introduce him right there. Thank you. He says that I'm taller, but he's better looking. That's what he says. Okay, I'll go with that. So some of you may remember back in 2014 when I stood on this stage and I said I was working on a Japanese-American dysfunctional family play, and everybody laughed and thought it was a great idea, and then I said to myself, uh-oh, that means I actually have to do it. And so that's what you're going to be hearing tonight, the play that I talked about back then. And so let me tell you a little bit about since I wrote the play. That was in 2014. I wrote it in actually 2015. And then since 2016, we've done this event called Growing Up Sansei, now 9 times up and down California with over 2,300 people attending, mostly Sansei. And at these events, I asked the audience some questions as to what it was that brought them out to the play. Questions like, was it that you could relate to the concept of a Japanese-American dysfunctional family? Put my glasses on. Was it relating very strongly to having to go through your parents' house and garage after they passed away and get rid of all their stuff? Yes. Or did I have you at the mention of saving tofu containers and kamaboko bowls? So, yes. So today you went to the Tule Lake site and saw for yourself what it was like. You saw the infamous jail within a jail. You saw what it used to be the camp cemetery that was bulldozed by a local. You saw for yourself what your families lived through and survived at Tule Lake. In our play, we also talk about Tule Lake, but in the context of what Tule Lake and the stigma of Tule Lake did to our families after the war, and how those after effects are still with us to this day. And these after effects have also led to varying degrees of Japanese-American family dysfunction, which we'll be discussing after the play with Dr. Ina. So I encourage you to take in the play and ask a lot of questions of Dr. Ina and myself, and let's have a community conversation about who we are and what it means to be Tule Lake people. It's okay to laugh, it's okay to cry, no shinpai, no judgment. We're here to share and try to figure out and understand together why we are the way we are and what are the factors that made it so. So the play is in 2 acts, And at the end of Act 1, we'll take a 15-minute intermission, and then we'll come back for Act 2. And then immediately after the reading, we'll go straight into the post-reading discussion with Dr. Ina. So let me introduce our cast, professional actors and friends with Grateful Crane from Los Angeles, who came up with me actually today. Reading the role of Glenn, we have Kurt Kuniyoshi. Reading Sharon is Hadwe Ioka. Hadwe. Reading Mom is Diane Kobayashi. Diane. Reading the role of Dad is Sean Shimoda. And reading the stage directions, we have King Wu. So we present to you Garage Door Opening. Enjoy. Thank you.
Lights up on Shig Tanaka, hidden behind the latest issue of the Miyako Times. He peeks his head out from behind the paper and immediately moves his head back where it belongs, hidden behind the pages of the Miyako Times. Garage Door Opener by Soji Kashiwagi. Characters: Glenn Tanaka, 63, Sansei. Sharon Tanaka, 61, Glenn's youngest sister, also Sansei. Mary Tanaka, 84, Nisei, mother of Glenn and Sharon. She is dead. Shig Tanaka, 88, Nisei, father of Glenn and Sharon. He is dead too. Location, Tiny Town, California, time the present, Act 1, Scene 1. The setting is the detached garage of Shig and Mary Tanaka, an elderly Nisei couple. Tiny Town is a small farming town where Shig and Mary grew up. They lived in this small, modest house for 64 years. It was their first and only house, and it's where they raised their 2 kids. Lights up on Mary Tanaka, dressed in an apron. She is sitting at her kitchen table, opening take-out shoyu packets and carefully emptying the shoyu into the gallon shoyu dispenser. One by one, she does this until the dispenser is full.
We can't throw these away. It's mottainai. It's good shoyu, you know.
Kimlan is not good shoyu. Kikoman, use Kikoman.
After emptying the shoyu packets, Mom starts in on her collection of mini ketchup packets. Lights fade on Mom and Dad, lights up on Glenn Tanaka and his sister, Sharon Tanaka. They are standing in front of the garage door of their parents' house. The sliding doors of the garage are closed, but they and everything behind them are about to be opened. A wooden frame is used to create the garage, extending across the stage from left to right.
Not gonna do it, Sharon. Not gonna do it.
Glenn turns and walks away.
Glenn, where do you think it... Glenn?
What? You're always Mom and Dad's favorite. You do this. I'm out of here.
Whoa. Hold on 1 second, Buster. What do you mean, Mom and Dad's favorite? Mom and Dad left this house to both of us, equally. They didn't favor me over you. We split everything 50-50. It says so right here in their will.
I know what it says. But you know that ever since we were kids, it was never 50-50. It was always all about sharing. Sharon did this, Sharon did that.
I am not doing this alone. You hear me, Glenn Teruo Tanaka? I am not doing this alone.
Glenn Teruo Tanaka? Only person who ever used my middle name was Mom. And it always meant I was in big, big trouble.
Glenn Teruo Tanaka. Glenn Teruo Tanaka. Glenn Teruo Tanaka.
Okay, Sharon, I get it. Just don't call me that, okay? Sharon, I already gave you the simple solution. Let's douse the house of kerosene and light the whole damn thing on fire. And that's it. We're done. And we're done with Mom and Dad's house, and we're done with all of Mom and Dad's stuff.
Glenn, you know we can't do that.
And why not?
Because I promised Mom and Dad before they died that we would take care of their house.
You promised, not me. So no one ever listens to me, do they? Even though I'm the firstborn son, even though I'm older than you, no, nobody listens to good old Glenn.
Glenn, are you done? Is the pity party over? Because the only one who's here to celebrate with you is me. And I would not have come even if I was invited.
Sharon, I still say, let it burn, Sharon, let it burn!
Sharon starts to cry.
What?
You don't understand. I know this was Mom and Dad's house, and I know you don't have the best memories of living here, or in Tiny Town for that matter. But it was our house too. And in order for us to move on with our lives, we need to clean it up. I can't do this by myself. I need your help.
But Sharon, you know and I know that Mom and Dad saved everything. We're talking about 60 years worth of junk, Sharon. I'm not gonna do it.
If this is the way you're gonna be, then forget it, okay? I'll do it myself. Forget about Mom, forget about Dad, forget about everything they did to put this roof over our heads.
Guilt trip. You sound just like Mom.
Just forget it, okay? Go home. Play your Xbox 360 and your stupid PlayStation 2, and I'll clean up Mom and Dad's mess. I'll get rid of Mom and Dad's stuff, and I'll sell Mom and Dad's house. And I'll keep what I make for it all to myself.
Whoa. I thought we were supposed to split everything 50-50.
50-50 means you do half the work. If not, well then...
All right. I'll help already. Just stop guilt tripping me, okay?
Glenn unlocks the padlock on the garage door and slides it open.
Oh my God.
What is revealed for all to see is the garage from hell, a hoarder's paradise, filled to the rafters with cardboard box after cardboard box, stacks of bundled newspapers and National Geographic magazines, old tools and toolboxes, fishing gear, stacks of toilet paper, a cardboard wardrobe box, a wide assortment of takeout bowls, tofu containers, styrofoam meat trays, kamaboko boards, department store boxes, teapots, Japanese dolls in glass cases, an old broken down TV and stereo, an old refrigerator, a fake old-fashioned radio, old clothes on clothes racks, lots of old family photo albums, and plastic bags filled with plastic bags. Glenn shuts the door.
Glenn, open the door.
No.
Glenn,
No.
open
No.
the
No.
door. Glenn, open the door right now.
All right already.
He slides open the door. The same mess in the garage.
Oh my God.
You see? What do you say we just close the door and come back another year, huh, Sharon? What do you say, huh?
Glenn, you know and I know if we close that door, we're never going to open it again.
I know. It's just, look at it. Oh.
I know, but Glenn, you know the neighbors already reported us to the fire department. We've been red tagged as a fire hazard, and...
I know. We have to do this or be forced to pay a heavy fine.
We have 2 weeks.
The clock is ticking.
After the fire truck showed up and the fire marshal made a big deal over the house, we've already become the talk of the town and an embarrassment of the block. Glenn, if we let this go, we would also be bringing shame to our family, and we would be dishonoring the memory of Mom and Dad. Do you want that hanging over us for the rest of our lives?
Sharon, you're sounding like Mom again.
What do you mean?
Flashback to 1969. Both Glenn and Sharon are in high school. Mom enters and sees what Glenn and Sharon are wearing and immediately disapproves.
You can't wear that.
Why not?
If you dress like that, if you talk like this, act like that, if you look funny, if you smell funny, if you look at someone funny, what will people think? What will people say? You will be the talk of the entire community. And if you become the talk of the entire community, you bring shame on yourself. And if you bring shame on yourself, You bring shame on our entire family. And not just our immediate family, but your Ji-chang and Ba-chang, your aunts and uncles and everyone in the Tanaka family. And not just our family here in Tiny Town, but the Tanaka clan up and down the state, across the country, and all the way to our hometown village in Yamaguchi-ken in Japan. We come from samurai family, you know.
I know, we're distantly related to the...
Tokugawa shogunate. Hontoyo, and don't you forget it.
But Mom, we've never met our relatives in Japan.
Doesn't matter. Shame on you, shame on us. You shame one, you shame all. And the Tanaka family will feel it all the way in Yamaguchi-ken.
So I guess this means these jeans from JCPenney are out?
No JCPenney jeans. People see that and they think you come from poor family. And they'll say, oh, look at Tanaka-san's son wearing JCPenney jeans. They must be poor family if he has to wear JCPenney jeans. There.
But Mom, we are kind of poor.
I know, but no one needs to know that. You wear JCPenney jeans, then everyone will know. You see what I mean?
Got it, Mom.
Lights out on Mom. She exits, back to present day.
Whoa, what was that? It felt like a really bad flashback or a really bad dream or something. Sharon? Sharon, did you hear what I just said?
Every word came flooding back to me and it gave me chills. I am sounding just like Mom. In fact, I think I have become Mom.
Spotlight on Mom, back in the garage wearing an apron.
Not so fast, Buster. I am Mom, you are Sharon. You are you, I am me. You are not me. Got it?
Spotlight off Mom.
Come on, Glenn. We have work to do.
In the garage, both Sharon and Glenn are going through all the stuff. Boxes of old Japanese books, samurai movie videos, cassette tapes of Japanese folk music. Then they come across a box filled with old tofu containers and takeout containers.
I don't get it. Look at this. Empty tofu containers. Tons of takeout boxes. Kamaboko boards. Broccoli rubber bands. Styrofoam meat trays. Why, Sharon, why?
Spotlight on Sharon. She becomes the host of a reality TV show.
Welcome to Japanese American Hoarders, the reality show on the J&A television network. I'm your host, Sharon Yamada, not my real name. In tonight's episode, we will take you to the home of my parents, Mary and Shig Yamada, not their real names.
Mom enters wearing an apron.
Hello, Mom. Welcome to J&A Hoarders.
Sharon, what is that camera doing here? You know I don't like my picture taken.
Now, Mom, we talked about this already. You said you would do this. You said you would do this for me.
No, but you didn't say anything about a camera.
Mom, it's TV. They use cameras for TV. Please say hello to everyone out there in TV land.
But Sharon, hello. My name is Mary Yamada. Although Yamada is not my real name. How's that?
You're doing good, Mom. Now, about the decluttering we need to do. Yesterday, I threw away that old and musty stack of funeral programs dating back to the 1970s. And today, I find it again, taken out of the trash and back on the shelf.
You can't throw that away.
But Mom,
Those are my friends. You can't throw away my friends.
well, what about these boxes upon boxes of old Cool Whip containers? Gift boxes from department stores that no longer exist. Toilet paper dating back to 1973. Hanging Ziploc bags, wire twisties from every loaf of bread you ever bought, and yards of old newspaper twine that's been tied together and spooled around those cardboard toilet paper cylinders, which you save so you can spool old newspaper twine around it.
No, you can't throw that away.
Why not?
Because you never know when you're going to need it.
Mom, when am I ever going to need a broccoli rubber band?
I use them all the time.
End of scene. Mom exits. Spotlight on Sharon, who throws up her arms in exasperation.
4 episodes into the season, and you know how much stuff we decluttered? Nada. 0. Zilch.
The TV show is over. Cancelled after 4 episodes. Back in the garage, Glenn and Sharon continue to go through the stuff.
Oh, look at this necklace, Glenn. Mom told me she made this when she was at camp at Heart Mountain.
Wrong, Sharon, wrong again. No, that was made from shells taken from the lake bed at Tule Lake. And it wasn't made by Mom, it was made by Auntie Sets.
No, Mom told me she made it herself at Heart Mountain.
No, Auntie Sets made it herself at Tule Lake.
No, Heart Mountain.
No, Tule Lake.
No, Glenn. I am right and you are...
Wrong, Sharon. For once in your life, why can't you admit you're wrong?
Because I'm not.
Dad grunts from behind the Miyako Times. Glenn sees an old handmade wooden ladder used for picking fruit.
Oh, now there's a memory. I used that old ladder to climb up on our roof. Remember how we used to play on the roof as kids, Sharon? Those were fun times.
Yeah, fun. Hey, Glenn, check this out. Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain.
She starts to leaf through the book.
Oh, and look what's in it. A $50 bill.
What? Hey, wait a sec.
Glenn grabs another book.
Here's $100 in The Great Gatsby.
And another 100 in Little Women. Oh, no. Glenn, you know what this means, don't you?
Pays to read.
No. It means we can't throw anything away until we check to make sure there's no money hidden in it.
You're kidding me, right?
No, I'm not.
Why? Why do they hide their money like that?
I don't know, a rainy day maybe?
It never rains in Tiny Town, Sharon.
Hey, look over here. It's Tiny Town's Japanese-American newspaper, the Miyako Times. All turn to page 2.
Page 2.
The obituaries.
Obituaries? What the heck? I don't remember them reading the obituaries, but I do remember our family dinners and Dad and his copy of the Miyako Times.
Yes. Dad and his Miyako. And a whole lot of silence.
Flashback to the family dining room in the early 1970s. Dad is seated at the end with the Miyako Times covering his face. Mom is on the other end. Glenn and Sharon sit across from each other in the middle of the table.
Mom, how come we never talk during dinner like Beaver Cleaver and his family?
Yeah. Beaver Cleaver's mom always asks Wally and the Beef, how was school today? How come you never ask us about school?
Because I am not Beaver Cleaver's mother. Beaver Cleaver? Who is Beaver Cleaver? Do I look like Beaver Cleaver's mother?
Dad shoots everyone the look and grunts his extreme disapproval. Dinner is over. Mom starts clearing the dinner dishes. Dad continues to read the Miyako Times while working his teeth with a toothpick.
Beaver Cleaver's dad would have asked us about school by now.
Glenn, enough about Beaver Cleaver and his mom and dad.
What?
Glenn, Dad may not say much, but look on the bright side. We get to know what's happening in our Japanese-American community by reading the back pages of the Miyako Times every day.
But Sharon, the back pages are in Japanese and we can't read Japanese.
Glenn, look at the pictures. Look at the pictures.
What?
That was the dessert grunt. Mom, Dad says he wants dessert. The ocha grunt. Mom, Dad said he wants ocha with his dessert. That one means, where's Mom with my apple pie and ocha? And my scoop of vanilla ice cream?
Mom enters with dessert.
Here you go, Dad. Apple pie with vanilla ice cream and a nice hot cup of ocha.
He says, thanks, Mom.
You're welcome, Dad.
But Mom, how did you know that Dad wanted vanilla ice cream?
Because that's what Dad's had for dessert every month for the past 15 years.
Oh,
Everyone eats their dessert. Silently.
silence again.
Shh, Glenn.
Lights fade out. Back in the garage, Glenn and Sharon come across some old pie tins. Sharon holds up a pie tin.
Pumpkin pie. You remember pumpkin pie?
Christmas dinner, 1973.
Uncle Roy has a bit too much to drink.
A bit too much. He was stinking drunk, Sharon. And you remember how he went off on Auntie Nietzsche about the turkey being dry and the gravy being lumpy?
I know, he screamed at her in front of the entire family.
No one knew what to do. No one knew what to say. There was just tension in the air and a whole lot of silence. And just as this was about to become the worst Christmas ever, Mom picked up her fork, took a big bite of pumpkin pie, and said for everyone to hear,
Pumpkin pie oishii ne, Daddy.
and there it was.
The day Mom saved Christmas.
By Mom and everyone in the family pretending that what just happened never happened.
And if it never happened, then it didn't happen, and everything was A-okay.
But you better believe that Mom never let us forget that day, right, Sharon?
It was all she could talk about on the way right home, and the next day, too.
You remember the lecture she gave us?
You mean the rules?
Yep.
How could I forget?
Spotlight on Mom, lecturing to Sharon and Glenn in their living room.
Rule number 1, you already know. Don't bring shame to the family. Uncle Roy, he not only shamed family, he ruined Christmas. Rule number 2, if you pull an Uncle Roy and ruin Christmas, know that everyone in the family will remember the fact that you went on a drunken tirade and ruined Christmas. And this story will live on and on forever, and for as long as you live. You will have to live with it or leave the family. And if you leave the family, good riddance for going on a drunken tirade and ruining our Christmas dinner. Rule number 3, you don't want to be Uncle Roy and go on a drunken tirade at the family Christmas dinner. You don't do this. Don't do it.
Okay. We get it, Mom.
Mom is not done. Sit.
They sit.
Rule number 4, you bring shame to family, we have to move away. So, remember rule number 1. Rule number 5, do not pour shoyu on your gohan. Hakujin people do this. You don't do this. Rule number 5, do not stab your hashi into your bowl of gohan. It means death. Bad luck, yo. Don't do it. Rule number 7, when going over to your friend's house, you must always bring something, even if it's a Hakujin friend, but especially if it's a Nihonjin friend. Nihonjin mothers know the rules, and if you break the rules, we go back to rule number 1 all over again. And if you are at your Nihonjin friend's house, do not accept any offering of food or refreshments until it's offered 3 times. But if you're at the Hakujin's house, it's okay to accept after first offer. And eat all you want. No enryo, no shame. Rule number 8, never eat the last piece of anything left on the plate. It's impolite. Let someone else have it.
Wait, but if everyone knows this rule, then that means there's always going to be one piece left on every single plate.
There's always at least one Hakujin in-law in the family. Who doesn't know the rules. Leave it for them. May I continue? Thank you. Rule number 9. If you break all the rules and do something really bad, like going on a drunken tirade in front of everyone at the family Christmas dinner, pretend like nothing happened and say, pumpkin pie oishii, dear Daddy. Rule number 10. If you don't have nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all.
Is this why it's always so quiet at our house?
Yes, Dad says yes.
Silence.
Yes, Dad says yes. Again.
Back in the garage, Glenn and Sharon find a photo album with random family photos in it.
Hey Sharon, check this out. A photo of you when you ran for Tiny Town's Nikkei Festival Queen. Whoa, you were kind of fat back then.
I was not. Never mind. Oh, look. Here's one of you from the Boy Scouts. Talk about fat.
Yeah, you know, that was one of the things that was expected of me. Become an Eagle Scout and make us proud.
Make us proud and become Nikkei Festival Queen.
But I'm the #1 son. You know how much pressure is put on the #1 son in a Japanese family?
Spotlight on Mom.
We are counting on you to set a good example for your sister. Here is what we want. Here is our wish for you. 1, you must study hard and get good grades. 2, you must join the Boy Scouts and become an Eagle Scout so you can get your picture on the front page of the Miyako Times with an article talking about how you built a brand new koi pond at Nikkei Retirement Home as your Eagle Scout community project. 3, after Boy Scouts in high school, you will graduate, move away from Tiny Town, and attend either UCLA, UC Berkeley, Stanford, or Harvard, where you will study to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Mom, can we stop right there?
Nani?
From a very young age, Mom started grooming me for the ultimate community honor to be Tiny Town's Nikkei Festival Queen. It started at age 5 when she enrolled me in the Tachibana School of Japanese Classical Dance. And she didn't hide what this was for from day 1.
In order for you to be Nikkei Festival Queen, you must be well-rounded in Japanese arts and traditions. So, we will start with Odori with Madame Tachibana, and then we will continue on.
What if I don't want to go to Berkeley? What if I don't get into Harvard? What if I end up at Tiny Town City College?
You are not going to shitty college. You understand me? What do people say? I can hear the Fujinkai ladies at church talking behind my back as they wash the teacups. Oh, the Tanaka boy is going to shitty college. What a loser that Tanaka boy is. I feel so sorry for his parents. I thought they raised him better than shitty college.
Mom, it's City College.
City, shitty, same thing. You no go there. You no go there.
How about Tiny Town State?
No! Enough about this. You know where you're going, you know what to do. May I continue?
Do I have a choice?
No.
Mom then enrolled me in flower arranging, tea ceremony, koto plucking, shamisen strumming, and dancing every single year since age 5 in the annual Nikkei Festival Parade. And all of this was leading up to the moment at age 20 when I could run for the ultimate community honor of being Nikkei Festival Queen, sponsored by the Tiny Town Japanese American Women's Auxiliary Association of America, or JAWA, of which my mother was a charter member. But I digress. Come to find out, me being queen and my brother being Dr. Tanaka was all part of a larger plan.
And then, 25 years from now, after my son becomes a doctor and my daughter becomes Nikkei Festival Queen, and for all the other outstanding contributions and awards your sister and brother have made for our community and country, Dad and I will be named Parents of the Year. And we'll all get to ride down Main Street in the annual Nikkei Festival Parade. After you graduate from UCLA, UC Berkeley, Stanford, or Harvard, you will then go on to medical school or law school, graduate with honors, get a good job at one of the country's top hospitals or law firms. And then you will find a nice Japanese girl from a good Japanese family, get married, buy a house with a white picket fence and 2-car garage, and then you will have 2.5 kids. So Ji-chan and I can be happy and take them to Disneyland and make spam musubi for snack time after their Japanese League basketball games.
Wow, Mom, you've got my life all figured out, don't you?
ちょっと待って、Mom not finished. You will then win many awards in your field, and your picture will appear on the front page of the Miyako Times with an article that lists all of your achievements and will mention that Glenn Tanaka is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Sheikh Tanaka of Tiny Town, California.
That's what this is all about, isn't it, Mom?
And that Nikkei Festival Queen thing, here's how that ended.
Flashback to the Nikkei Festival Queen coronation. Dad and Mom are sitting in the audience, anxiously awaiting the announcement of the winning candidates. Dad is sitting there with the Miyako Times in front of his face. Mom is frozen in this moment in time. And now, announcing the 8th place finisher out of 8 possible candidates, the winner of an 8th place trophy and a $25 gift certificate to China Sea's China Restaurant in downtown Tiny Town is Sharon Tanaka, sponsored by the Tiny Town Japanese American Women's Auxiliary of America, or JAWA. Dad places the Miyako Times back in front of his face and continues to read as Mom continues to wail.
And so it goes. And so it went. And it ended badly. No one told my mom or me that they eliminated the talent portion of the pageant years ago. And the judging criteria during my year was all about poise and how we carried ourselves in 2-piece bikinis. Of course, Mom cried foul and tried to convince the coronation committee to compromise and allow me to play koto while wearing a 2-piece bikini. But they said,
Oh, no one told us about bikinis. No one told us Sharon cannot play koto or dance Nihon Buyo on stage. All those years, 15 years, for 8th place out of 8 candidates. That's last place. There, I said it. My daughter finished in last place in the Nikkei Festival Queen coronation.
At least we can go eat China Meshi at China Sea's.
I am sick and tired of China Meshi at China Sea's. Don't you know? It's not real Chinese food.
What do you mean it's not real Chinese food? We've always eaten Chinese food at China Sea's. It's our family tradition.
Tradition is driving your daughter to her traditional Japanese arts lessons every week, rain or shine, without fail. And we have the perfect attendance awards to prove it.
Mom just wouldn't let it go. She couldn't let go of the fact that I finished in 8th place out of 8 possible candidates in the Nikkei Festival Queen coronation. She was so upset that she wrote a letter of protest to the editor of the Miyako Times.
Dear editor, since when did our Nikkei Festival Queen and coronation become nothing but a beauty pageant for young women to walk around in 2-piece bikinis and high heels? Have we become nothing but a T&A show for the dirty old men on the coronation committee to sit there and admire their so-called poise? As a charter member of the Japanese American Women's Auxiliary Association of America, or JAWA, I am outraged and ashamed at what the Nikkei Festival Queen coronation has become, and call on the Nikkei Festival Queen Coronation Committee to restore our pride and joy in our Japanese culture, heritage, and history. Thank you. Sincerely, Mary Tanaka, Charter Member, JAWA.
Little did my mom know, but her letter sparked a movement and pretty soon the Miyako Times was swamped with angry letters, many from young Sansei activists who called the pageant a meaningless sexist farce, exploiting the young women of our community for the benefit of the male chauvinistic pigs within the coronation committee. Pretty soon the pressure became too much for the committee to bear, and the president released his own letter announcing that they would be eliminating the bikini portion of the pageant.
Good for future candidates, but too late for my Sharon.
Back in the garage, Sharon and Glenn are shaking their heads at the memories.
Well, sad to say, you didn't become Nikkei festival queen, and I didn't become a doctor or a lawyer.
But hey, Glenn, you had a really good 30-year career as district manager for UPS.
And you went on to be an outstanding elementary school teacher.
Yeah, I guess we weren't total failures, even though we didn't quite meet Mom and Dad's expectations.
You know what? We should celebrate that. What do you say we go out and get us some good old China Meshi at China Seas?
We hear Mom's spirit voice from the garage.
No! No China Seas! No China Seas!
Okay, whatever you say.
Mom?
There is silence.
Silence.
Why am I not surprised?
Sharon breaks out of this memory and reaches down for an old report card.
Hey, Sharon. It's your middle school report card.
Flashback to a scene with Dad and Sharon.
Look, Dad, 5 A's and 1 B.
How come you got a B?
Lights fade on scene, back in the garage.
Hey, at least they saved your report card. Yeah, sure. I remember Mom doing that backwards bragging thing with her friends at church.
Flashback to Mom at church with the church ladies.
Oh, you know, my Sharon may not be the smartest girl in class like your daughter. You know, there was that time she got 5 A's and 1 B. But then she worked really hard. And the next time she got home straight A's and an E for excellence in citizenship. It still didn't come easy for her. But her teacher told everyone in class that she was the most improved student. But still, she needs to work really hard, ne?
Lights fade on scene, back in the garage.
Backwards bragging about good old Glenn? Not a chance. Not once. It was always all about you, Sharon. It was always all about you.
Glenn,
What?
maybe it's because you always got C's and D's on your report cards.
Hey, you know, some people are just street smart, you know what I'm saying?
What about all those U's for unsatisfactory citizenship?
Let's just say I was a rebel without a cause. Black sheep in a sea of white. It was my way or the highway. But hey, I did try to fit in and be the all-American kid. I joined the tiny town Boy Scouts. I even played baseball.
Lights fade on scene, spotlight up on Glenn, who has his childhood baseball glove on.
I remember the day back in Little League Baseball when I was like 11 years old. There I was out in right field. That's right, right field. You know, the place where the right-hand batters rarely hit the ball. The place where they put kids who are not really very good. That was me. And that was my place. But here it was, the championship game of the tiny town Japanese American Little League of America, or JALA, was the bottom of the seventh. And our team, the Tiny Town Giants, was up by a run, leading 10-9. But the J-Town Yankees were mounting a comeback. Bases loaded, 2 outs. And up steps their cleanup hitter, Steve Moriguchi, a big burly kid they called the Big Gooch. The count was 2-2. The pitch was high and outside, and Big Gooch swung and swatted that ball high toward the right field line. From my post in deep right center, I immediately started running as fast as I could. Faster than I ever ran. But the faster I ran, the more the ball seemed to be slicing away from me. The championship of the Sunday baseball tiny town Jala was on the line after all. And if I let this drop, that was it. Game over, we lose. So I just kept on running and running. And just as the ball was about to hit just inside the right field line, I went into a slide and with my glove scooped up that ball just before it hit the top of the outfield grass. I made the catch! I made the catch! We had just won the Sunday Baseball Tiny Town Jala Championship. And it was all because of me and the catch. And as I held my arm high and clutched that ball in my hand, my teammates mobbed me out in right field, and we moved as one big mob over to the dugout. Our coaches and parents greeted us, and together the celebration continued. The party then headed toward the parking lot for the celebratory pizza party at the local tiny town Shakey's Pizzeria. But then I looked around and said, "Oh, wait a second, guys, where's my dad? Anyone know where my dad is?" Coach Sato took a look around and said, "Oh, there he is."
Dad is up in the stands reading the Miyako Times.
I ran up to the top of the stand and said, "Dad, Dad, did you see my catch? Did you see my catch?"
You should have been playing Moriguchi close to the line so you wouldn't have had to run so far to make that catch. Next time. Come on, let's go. Mom has dinner on the table. Let's go. Let's go.
To Beaver's dad would have said, "Great catch, Beav. I'm so proud to call you my son." Or something like that. But my dad didn't say that. He never said anything close to something like that. He did, however, know exactly the right words to use to burst my bubble, to pop my balloon, to deflate me down so far and so fast. What I thought was so good really wasn't. And here are the reasons why I needed to practice more, study more, and work harder, and then anyone else, so that everything I did could be perfect.
Hey, I said let's go.
I'm coming. Coming.
Glenn starts to follow his dad toward the car, but then stops.
That's when I decided this Japanese community thing was not for me. No matter how hard I tried, I was never good enough. No matter how hard I tried, I could never be perfect. So I left. Not physically, but in my mind, I checked out of the community and never looked back. But you know what? No one, not Dad, not Mom, not the big gooch can take away my catch that won the championship game of the Sunday Baseball Tiny Town Japanese American Little League of America, or JALA, all by myself, from my place, out in right field.
As Glenn exits, Sharon steps into the spotlight.
Life's not fair. You know what I'm saying? Well, maybe you don't because I haven't said anything yet. But therein lies the problem. As a Sansei woman growing up in a Japanese American family, I wasn't really encouraged to say a whole lot about anything. Everything was all about my older brother, the #1 son. I mean, next to my dad, he was the man. He got served first, after Dad. He didn't have to do the dishes. He didn't have to help clean up after dinner. He didn't have to clean the house, do the laundry, make his bed, or make his lunch. He didn't have to cook. He didn't have to serve. He didn't have to entertain our guests during family parties. Both he and my dad would just sit there and watch TV until both of them fell asleep with their mouths wide open.
Sharon picks up the remote and turns the TV off. Father and son immediately wake up.
Hey, I was watching that. Turn it back on.
She turns it on, they go back to sleep.
Me, meanwhile, I'm told by Mom and Bachan that I have to be the good Japanese girl. What does that mean, you ask? It means that everything my brother and Dad didn't have to do, I had to do. The cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, the serving, the party guest entertaining, the making sure everybody in the house was happy and taken care of, and putting everyone else's needs in front of myself. And all the things that my brother got to do, drive the car, go out on dates, and make out in the back seat of the car, and then go eat chashu, rice and eggs at Tiny Town Bowl at 2:30 in the morning, was all off limits to me, because those are things that nice, perfect Japanese girls don't do. Well, truth be told, there were actually a lot of Sansei girls who did all of that, and a whole lot more.
No. Japanese girls don't do that.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't. And you, don't you know you have a bad reputation? because Mrs. Watanabe saw you holding hands with that Hakujin boy at the church carnival.
Mom, we were just holding hands. That's what couples do.
Well, Mrs. Watanabe told Mrs. Kimura, and when you tell Mrs. Kimura anything, pretty soon the whole community knew about my scandalous daughter holding hands with that Hakujin boy at the church carnival.
But Mom, those so-called perfect, pretty girls whose families are the pillars of our community, they are not as nice as you think.
Then they're bad. Very, very bad. And they're making their families look bad. They're making our community look bad. Nice Japanese girls don't do that. And don't you ever do that either.
When it came to dating, there were rules attached to that too. So Mom, who's acceptable for a nice Japanese girl?
A nice Japanese boy from a nice Japanese family right here in Tiny Town.
Well, how about Howie Nato from Nato Farms right here in Tiny Town?
No,
Why not?
the Natos are eta.
Eta, what's that?
No good. They're kitanai, dirty. You know marry eta.
Okay, then who's left for me?
A nice Hakujin boy from a rich Hakujin family right here in Tiny Town.
What about Chinese?
No,
What about Korean?
no,
What about Mexican?
no,
What about black?
no.
What about American Indian?
American what?
No. I got a whole lot of no growing up. So when it came time to choose, I said yes to a man who was part Chinese, Korean, Mexican, black, and American Indian. Mom damn near had a heart attack.
He's what?
She faints.
Oh, life's not fair. You know what I'm saying?
Back in the garage, Glenn and Sharon come across an old program from a family trip to Disneyland.
Hey, Glenn, remember this?
Yes, the family trip to Disneyland, where the only thing I remember is that Dad's seatbelt malfunctioned and got stuck on Dumbo.
And boy, he wasn't happy about it either.
Flashback to Dad, stuck on Dumbo. He puts down his Miyako Times that was covering his face and speaks.
Whose dumb idea was it for me to ride on Dumbo anyway, huh?
Lights fade on Dad. Back to Glenn. Glenn is flipping through the Disneyland program.
Oh, wow, Sharon, remember this?
It's a small world. Yes, I remember. I thought it was so cool that a Japanese girl was represented.
Yes, Mom had to point that out every time.
Glenn, Sharon, look! A Japanese girl in kimono! A Japanese girl in kimono!
Yeah, that was a big, big deal. But you know that what It's a Small World also reminds me of?
What's that?
In a small community like ours, you find out really fast that everyone knows everyone, or you're somehow related to everyone. And when you find someone who knows your mother, father, or any of your relations, they always say,
It's a small world.
Flashback to scene between a Nisei man and Glenn at a local tiny town restaurant. Tanaka. Tanaka. You're not related to Yosh Tanaka, are you?
Yosh is my uncle.
You don't say! I know your uncle from way back, before the war. That's how far back we go.
Yes, Uncle Yosh is my father's brother.
And your father is?
Shig.
Shig is your father?
Yes.
You don't say! Your father and I used to play baseball together.
Before the war, right?
Yes. How did you know? It's a small world, isn't it?
It's a world of laughter. It's a world of hope and a world of fears. There's so much that we share that it's time we're aware. It's a small world after all.
Sing it with me.
It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all.
It's a small, small world.
Say, before the war, when our family was really struggling, your grandfather was really good to us. He helped our family out of some pretty big jams. It's something that my parents never forgot, and they told us never to forget either. So say, let me get that check. I haven't forgotten. It's the least I can do for a member of the Tanaka family. Back in the garage, Glenn and Sharon continue the conversation.
It's like the golden chain. Remember that from Buddhist church? I am a link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world.
Yes, and that golden chain stretches across our community and county and up and down the state.
It's like that old TV show, Name That Tune. Except instead of tunes, it's connections.
Flashback to Nisei Man and Glenn. I can name that connection in one question.
Okay, Joe Nisei, ask your question.
Are you Buddhist or Christian?
Buddhist.
Well then, you must know the Taniguchis, the Matsumoros, the Uematsu, and of course Reverend Jean, the chanting machine.
And if that fails, there's always camp.
Say, what camp was your mom in?
I think it was Heart Mountain.
Heart Mountain. That was my camp too. What about your dad? What camp was he in?
Tule Lake.
Oh. Oh, hey, that was some game last night, huh?
Yeah, it was great game.
Back in the garage.
Awkward.
Wasn't Dad one of those no-no boys?
Yeah, he never said, but he was at Tule Lake, and that was the no-no camp.
I heard the no-nos were the troublemakers and the disloyals, and that those who answered yes, yes to the questions don't talk to them to this day.
Safe to say that Nisei man will never talk to me about camp ever again.
Well, look at this. Dad's high school yearbook. Tiny Town High, class of 1940. And here's Dad's graduation photo.
Hey, he's smiling.
Yeah, so?
Dad never smiled.
Yes, he did. Once.
That was indigestion, remember? Too many tacos from Taco Tuesday at the Tiny Town Taqueria. That's what that was.
Oh, yeah. But he did love him some Taco Tuesdays at the Triple T.
Sharon notices a piece of paper folded inside the yearbook.
Hey, Glenn, take a look at this.
Glenn reads from the paper.
Graduation speech given by Shigeru Tanaka, class valedictorian, Tiny Town High School, June 8, 1940.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Our dad was class valedictorian?
That's what it says here.
Read it. This I've got to hear.
Glenn reads from the paper.
Citizenship. All through our lives we have heard of citizenship, and every citizen seems to have his own definition for it. For instance, during a political campaign, one speaker will tell you that to be a true lover of your country, you must be a Democrat. Another will be equally emphatic in urging the positive need of being a Republican.
Lights change as young Shig Tanaka steps into a spotlight. He is wearing a suit and tie. He continues with his speech.
This seems a very narrow view of good citizenship. Because to the person who loves his country, as Washington and Lincoln loved it, to the one whose thoughts are deeper and broader, good citizenship has a much finer meaning. To this person, the only true citizenship is the love of country, with a lofty conception of what the nation should be. And he uses all his energy and influence and power to bring her as close to that ideal as possible. Dear friends, we who are passing into more active citizenship feel that we have a place in this national life. Under this, we feel that each one of us has work to do in demonstrating the spirit that is within us. Under the splendid leadership of our president in the White House, we can all have a part to play. Whatever helps to make the country better and nobler, whatever serves to elevate the people of the land to a higher plane of thought and life, whatever in any way makes America great is the work of present-day accomplishments. We must remember that whatever elevates the individual elevates to a greater or lesser degree the community in which the individual lives. To you, teachers, we offer our thanks at this time for your untiring effort and all that you have done for us. We know how fully you have realized that the strongest asset of the American nation, and indeed of all nations, is its citizenship. For 4 years you have trained us in this spirit, and we hope that in years to come, we may demonstrate to your satisfaction that we were molded strongly. Finally, classmates, let us, as we separate, go forth with the determination to prove that our high school was one of the best mills in the world for grinding out individuals that are worthwhile. Let us make loyalty our controlling spirit, and in being loyal to ourselves, to our class, and to our school, we shall of necessity be loyal to every larger claim that the American nation can demand of the most efficient of her sons and daughters. Let us prove that we are the stuff of which the best citizens are made.
Spotlight out. Shig exits. Lights up on Glenn and Sharon.
Wow. Just, wow.
This was in 1940.
Just before the war.
Lights up on Spirit Dad in his location in the garage.
Just before camp.
Glenn looks back down at the speech.
Yes, camp. This was right before Dad and Mom and the entire family was hauled off to camp.
Oh my God. Everything he talked about. Love of country, loyalty, being the best citizen possible, making this a better and nobler place for everyone.
Shattered. Betrayed. Gone.
Spotlight on young Shig, still in his suit and tie.
Everyone, hands over hearts, and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lights fade to black. Intermission. There'll be a short 15-minute intermission.
Feeling low, rocking slow. Want to go right back where I belong, way down south in Birmingham. I mean, south in Alabama. There's a place where people go to dance the night away. They all drive or walk a mile to get jive, that southern style. It's a jive that makes you want to dance the night away. It's a junction where the town folk meet at each function in a tux. They'll greet. Come on down, you'll find me there. Come on down, forget your cares so long town. I'm heading for Tuxedo Junction now. function when the town folk meet. Dysfunction in a touch and breathe. Come down, you'll find me there. Come on down, forget your cares a long time. I'm heading for Tuxedo Junction now. I'm heading for Tuxedo Junction now. I'm heading for Tuxedo Junction now.
Tell you all a story. About a while ago, it happened way out in Idaho. A saxophone wailing to a swinging beat. It's the kind of music makes you move your feet. Henry and Roy are up on the stand. Dance to the Minidoka Swing Band.
1, 2, 3.
In 1942, we were in a fix. The government issued Order 9066. We had to be gone from the West Coast shore. They smashed our windows and they looted our stores. We lost all our possessions and we lost our homes. Shipped us out to Minidoka where the buffalo roam. Saturday night neath the Idaho moon, the Matsunaga boys were away to the tune. Out on their and they begin to play. Minidoka swing man, hey, hey, hey. They wanted to the next and they started to play. Hey, Minidoka swing man, go man, go. Saturday night, neath the Idaho moon, the boys in the band play the jazzy tune. Out on the windy desert when they started to play, you'd hear the Minidoka swing band for miles away. On a slow dance, give your sweetie a hug. And boy, could those knees say, jitterbug. Trying to be happy though they're treating you bad. Music and dance can make you feel glad. They may have you pinned up behind barbed wire. Still the Minidoka swing make a light go fly. Saturday night, beneath the Idaho moon, the boys in the band with a jazzy tune. Out on the windy desert when they started to play, you'd hear the Minidoka swing band for miles away.
Act 2. Back in the garage, Glenn and Sharon are stunned.
Is this why Dad became a no-no?
How could he say yes to a country that turned its back on him and our entire community?
Yes,
How could he say yes to a country that betrayed him like that?
yes.
He wasn't disloyal. Whoa, check this out, Sharon. It's the bookmark Dad saved with a quote from the founding father, Thomas Jefferson. If a government violates the very rights it is supposed to protect, then it is the duty of the government to rebel.
In the proud tradition of the Boston Tea Party and the American Revolution.
Yes,
Sharon, why didn't he tell us?
I couldn't.
Why?
It wasn't safe.
Dad,
What do you want?
Dad, you're dead. You don't have to hide anymore.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Anyway, like I said, it wasn't safe.
what do you mean?
For me, for Mom, for your kid. You know what our people did to those of us who stuck our necks out and said no, no, don't you?
We know the no-nos were called troublemakers and disloyals.
Yes. We had to live with the stigma of being a troublemaker and a disloyal, but it went much deeper than that.
What do you mean, Dad?
By answering no, no to the questions, we were the nail that sticks up. And in Japanese culture, when you're the nail that sticks up, you get pounded
Pounded
down.
down.
We know, Dad.
Mom drilled that in us.
But who, Dad? Who pounded you down?
The U.S. government, by dividing us into opposing camps with the loyalty questions, and then segregating us so-called no-nos to Tule Lake. But what got me the most was the way members of our own community treated us. All because we refused to go with the flow. All because we decided to rock the boat and stand up to what the government had done to us. But no. All of a sudden, we were the disloyals. The ones who made the good Japanese Americans look bad. And we were outcast, ostracized, ignored, left out, and made to be inferior, like we had committed some kind of crime against our community. But it didn't stop there. No, sir. Once it became known that you were a no-no, doors in this town began to close. To jobs, to social and community status.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What? Who?
Anyone who said yes, yes, and deemed themselves to be 200% super patriotic Americans. They're fading fast, but some of them are still right here in Tiny Town. Some old-timers from the Tiny Town JACL, a few Nikkei vets. If it was up to the hardliners in this town, they would have had us deported and sent to Japan a long time ago.
All because you said no, no?
This went even further than the Nikkei vets and the JACL. This hurt our family as well.
Family? What do you mean, family?
My older brother, your Uncle Teruo. He answered yes, yes to the questions and joined the all-Nikkei 442nd Regimental Combat Team right out of camp. When he found out I was going to answer no, no, we had a big fight about it. A fight so big that Mama had to throw herself between the two of us to stop us from killing each other. And then, just before he stormed out of our barracks, he looked me in the eye and he said, "I'll never forget this." He said, "I'm not your brother anymore. Keep away from me. Don't talk to me. Don't write to me. I'm never going to talk to you again." You know what? Teruo was true to his word.
Is this why Uncle Teruo lived in Chicago and we never got to see him?
Yes.
Is that why we've never met our Chicago cousins?
Yes.
Oh. Oh, wait. Is that why my middle name is Teruo? Was I named after Uncle Teruo?
I figured if I couldn't have a brother, at least my son could have his name.
Oh my God. That name has always been a bad thing for me, but now...
Now you know the truth.
Oh my God, this whole no, no, yes, yes thing broke up our family.
Yes. But not just our family. I remember after the war when we came back to Tiny Town, one of the Issei mothers of a no-no boy returned home to the Japanese Christian church. But instead of welcoming her back to the congregation, the mothers of the Nikkei vets decided to outcast her. They made her sit by herself during service, seated her off to the side in the social hall, and made her sit there and drink her tea alone. It was haji. Shame, you know. Her son had brought shame to the community, and his mother was paying the price for it. Pretty soon she couldn't take it anymore and committed suicide.
Oh no.
Damn.
So, when I said it wasn't safe, this is what it was like. Not everyone knew for sure I was an no-no, and I wanted to keep it that way. So I refused to talk about it or anything about camp. I became a gardener like all the other Nikkei and figured if I just kept my head down and my mouth shut, then no one here could shame me like they did that mother and the rest of us no-nos. And if no one could shame me, then they couldn't shame you or Mom either.
Daddy, it's time for dinner. Come on, Daddy. The food is getting cold.
I gotta run. We gotta eat, you know, even here in the spirit world.
Dad exits, leaving Glenn and Sharon in the garage.
I haven't heard Dad talk like that.
In like forever. But Glenn, everything people were saying about the no-nos, it wasn't true.
But because our people believed it, it became the truth. And everyone who wasn't part of that truth, well, then let's just pretend like they don't exist.
Let's pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah, you know, like pumpkin pie.
Everything's starting to make a lot more sense now.
I need a beer. I think there's a 6-pack in the fridge inside the house. You want one?
No thanks.
Okay, suit yourself.
Glenn exits. Sharon picks up an old Raggedy Ann doll from a box.
Wait a second, what's this? It's Raggedy Ann. I used to have one of these when I was a kid. Wait a second, is this the one I had as a kid?
Mom appears as a young 13-year-old about to be shipped off to camp in 1942.
No, it's mine. Give it to me. Give it to me.
She takes the doll.
Mama, I know they said we can only take what we can carry. I know you said I can't take Raggedy Ann. I know you said we had to leave her here. But I'm taking her, Mama. Because she's the only thing I have left. In elementary school, my teacher, Mrs. Beck, took my name when she announced in front of the entire class, "Your first name is too hard for me to pronounce, so from now on your name is Mary. Mary is your name." And that was it. Mitsue, the name you gave me, the name that was passed on to me from my great-grandmother in Japan, was gone, and I became Mary. Then Pearl Harbor happens, and you took away my Japanese doll and threw it in the big pile in the backyard, and we watched it burn. My doll that Oba-chan had given to you, the same doll that her mother had given to her, up in flames, gone, with everything else that was Japanese in our house. Family photo albums filled with pictures of your family in Japan, letters from relatives, heirlooms like Japanese scrolls and beautiful kimonos, Japanese records that played the music that you loved, the songs we sang together as a family. Gone. All because we were now the enemy. And being Japanese was bad, and having anything that looked Japanese was worse. And so we got rid of it, burned it, buried it, shattered it into 1,000 pieces. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, the FBI came and took Papa for no reason. And they won't tell us where they were taking him. Papa! I cried. Don't go, please don't go. But then he was gone. You and Ni-chan and Raggedy Ann are all that I have left, Mama. Please let me take it with me, Mama. Please.
Back in the garage, Sharon is clutching onto the Raggedy Ann and crying.
Sharon, it's okay. That was a long time ago. Mom is okay now.
But Mom, I never knew.
All right, Yomo.
So that's why you saved her? Is that why you saved everything?
Sharon, we grew up during the Depression. We never had much, and so you don't waste what you have. It's mottainai. But when you lose everything like we did during the war, you cherish the things you have. And when you do that, it's hard to throw them away, you know?
Good Mom. Broccoli rubber bands? Really?
Sharon,
I know.
you never know when you're going to need them.
Glenn returns to the garage with his beer.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey Glenn, guess what? Mom is in the house, or garage, or whatever.
Mom!
What? You were expecting Beaver Cleaver's mom or something?
Mom was just telling me about her family and what they lost when the war broke out.
And we were put in camp.
Mom, how come you never talk to us about camp?
How come you never asked me about camp?
We wanted to, but we kind of got the feeling that it was the one subject that you and Dad didn't want to talk about.
What gave you that feeling?
Well, every time we bring it up, you would change the subject.
No, I didn't.
So Mom, tell us about camp then.
See, Sharon, there sure is a lot of stuff we left for you to, huh? You see? Okay. So what do you want to know? I'm dead, Dad's dead, all that stuff we worried about before, all that stuff you kids were monkeying about earlier. No shinpai now. Go ahead, ask away.
So what was it like, Mom?
Flashback to Tiny Town, 1942. Attention, family number 5127.
Yes, we are 5127.
5127. Oh, so now we're just a number?
Form a single file line right here. Your bus will be here shortly. Mom, Glenn, and Sharon, wearing government-issued tags with numbers to identify themselves, get in line for the bus that's about ready to take them off to the Santa Anita Assembly Center.
Oh my God, Glenn, he's got a rifle with a bayonet.
And it's pointed right at us.
Here comes your bus now! Glenn, Sharon, and Mom board the bus. The door closes and they are seated on the bus. Sharon is next to Mom, who is near the window. Glenn is seated behind them. As the bus pulls away, a dog starts chasing after it.
Buddy,
Who's Buddy?
he's our dog. We had to leave him behind. Buddy, oh no, Buddy, please, please go home. Go home. Buddy, we have no choice. We can't take you with us. I'm so sorry. Please forgive us. Buddy.
Oh no.
No wonder Mom never let us have a dog.
He was my best friend.
Glenn and Sharon try to console their mother as the bus moves towards their destination unknown. All right, everyone, we're here.
Where are we?
Welcome to the Santa Anita Assembly Center, everyone. Form a single file line and check in right over there. Mom, Sharon, and Glenn look around at the Assembly Center.
Are we supposed to live in those?
Those are the barracks. You folks will be living over there. Mom, Glenn, and Sharon look over there and see horse stalls.
No way. I'm not living in a horse stall. Get me the hell out of here right now.
Excuse me, sir, but we are American citizens. By law, you can't take everything away from us without charges or due process and throw us into horse stalls like this.
Welcome home, folks. Welcome home. Mom, Sharon, and Glenn immediately cover their noses from the horse manure stench in their new home. They sit down on steel cots with no mattress. Mom begins to cry. Sharon and Glenn try to comfort her by rubbing her shoulders, but they are clearly in a state of shock themselves. Lights fade out. Lights up, and it's a new day at the Santa Anita Assembly Center. 5 months later, Mom, Sharon, and Glenn are standing in line for the mess hall.
Mom, how long do you think we're going to be in here?
I don't know. No one knows.
Mom, it's been 5 months already.
And all we've done is stand in line. For food, for the toilet, for laundry. All day, every day. I'm sick of it.
Shikataganai. Mama says shikataganai. It can't be helped.
Attention, attention, all residents. We have received notice that you will be moving out to relocation centers outside of the West Coast. Prepare for departure immediately.
Relocation centers?
What the hell is a relocation center?
At least we won't have to live in a horse stall anymore.
Gee, thanks, Mom.
Look, there's our train now.
Mom, Sharon, and Glenn board the old, black, dirty, and dusty train, probably used in the 1920s and put out of commission for years until the government needed them to haul Japanese Americans off to camp. Mom, Sharon, and Glenn take their seats.
So where are they taking us now?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I mean, I don't know. They didn't tell us anything.
Why did the MPs pull the window shades down?
They don't want us to see out.
They don't want others to see in.
We're being taken again.
And no one knows it's happening.
There's a rumor going around that they're going to take us out in the middle of the desert and shoot us all.
Mom, just relax, okay? That's not going to happen.
How do you know that?
I just know. They wouldn't do that to us. We're citizens. American citizens.
Mom, Sharon, and Glenn sit in silence. Lights fade to black. 3 days later, Mom, Sharon, and Glenn are once again awakened. All right, everyone up! Mom, Sharon, and Glenn get up and gather their things and get off the train. It's hot, and the bright sun bothers their eyes.
Hey!
Army MPs are seen unceremoniously dumping everyone's suitcases and belongings into a big pile on the ground. After they gather their bags, they look up and are faced with a large American-style concentration camp, complete with barbed wire fences, army-style barracks, and guard towers with machine guns. It's just like the Assembly Center, but much bigger and starker. Welcome to Wyoming and the Hot Mountain Relocation Center. Form a single file line for check-in.
Wyoming?
Where the hell is Wyoming?
Out in the middle of nowhere, that's where.
Tanaka? Tanaka family? Your apartment is right over there. They walk a bit and arrive at their apartment and look around. In reality, it's a hastily built tar-papered barrack. There's not a lot inside except bare metal cots with no mattresses, a hanging light bulb, and a pot-bellied stove in the corner.
Apartment? They call this an apartment?
At least it's not a horse stall.
Mom.
Mom looks outside the barrack window and begins to sing.
Oh, give me land, lots of land, under starry skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through that wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in. Let me be by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please, don't fence me in.
Mom snaps out of this dream nightmare scene in camp, and the three are back in the family garage.
We were in that camp for 3.5 years, not knowing if or when we were ever going to be released.
Mom, today they call that indefinite detention.
We just called it camp.
So, Mom, let me see if I got this right. You lose your freedom, your home, and all of your possessions.
And then at school, they made us kids say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag every day.
Oh, no, they didn't.
Oh, yes, they did.
Come on, Mom. And liberty and justice for all? Really?
That's what we were taught. That's what we believed, and we were true believers. We believed in this country. We loved this country. This was our home.
Yeah, your home behind barbed wires.
Yeah, well, it was still our home. So we did the best we could. That's what we did. Shikataganai. It can't be helped, so we have to buck up and make the best of a bad situation. Gaman, endure. That's what the Issei did their entire lives in this country. That's what we Nisei did too. Putting us in camp was just one more slap in the face we had to deal with. But we would not be defeated. We built gardens, grew flowers, painted pictures, created beauty and art where there was none. They could take everything away from us, but they couldn't take our spirit.
Knock us down 7 times. Get up 8 times. Right, Mom?
That's right, Sharon. That's a famous Japanese saying. Did I teach you that?
Mom, why didn't you teach us about camp? How come you didn't talk to us like you're talking to us now?
Because we wanted to forget. Why bring it up anyway? It happened, it's over. We had to move on. We couldn't be bitter. We couldn't be angry. You can't live your life like that. And I didn't want you to live your life like that either.
So you pretended like nothing happened and everything was A-okay?
We didn't want to burden you with our problems. We were too busy trying to survive. We couldn't talk about the past. We were too busy worrying about today and how we were going to put food on the table tomorrow.
But it was a burden. It was a problem, wasn't it, Mom? You may not have said anything, but we knew there was something wrong. We just never knew what or why.
I was only 13 years old. I was young, and when you're young like that, you just run around camp with all your friends and have fun. It wasn't until later that I realized how wrong this was. Our citizenship meant nothing. Our loyalty meant nothing. Our Constitution meant nothing. And after they let us out of camp, we had nothing.
You mentioned that your dad was taken by the FBI. What happened to him?
He was taken to a special camp for Issei leaders in New Mexico. After the first year at Heart Mountain, we finally received a letter from him telling us he was where he was and that he was okay. But we didn't see him until after the war when they released him and allowed him to return to Tiny Town. He tried to start all over from scratch. But by now he was old and tired and...
And what, Mom? And what?
No, let's just leave it at that, okay? Let's talk about something else.
Oh, no.
Sharon is looking at an old clipping from the old Tiny Town Times.
Oh.
Sharon, what is it?
It's a news clipping from a 1947 edition of the Tiny Town Times.
No, put that away.
Glenn grabs it and reads it.
Local Jap found hanging in barn.
I told you to put that away.
No! I'm not going to put this away, Mom. This is our Ji-chan. This is my grandfather. I need to know what happened to him.
I can't.
Mom.
Mom, please. We need to know. Please.
He came back from New Mexico, a broken man. I don't know what happened there, but he was not the same. He kept saying, I know start over. I'm an old man, I know start over. I cried and cried day after day when that happened. The saddest day of my life. I actually didn't know if I could go on. But then it hit me. I had to go on. In honor of Papa, Mama, and all that Issei, I had to. And from that day forward, I decided that for me to be able to go on in life, I was no longer Japanese. Because all the bad things that happened to me, happened to us, was due to the fact that we were Japanese. And I was done with being Japanese. So I became the all-American girl, the 200% super patriotic, people-pleasing American who never talked about camp, especially to the Hakuji, because I didn't want them to feel guilty or ashamed for something that they didn't do. So instead, I made sure they knew I was not Japanese. I was American, just like they were, even more so if you ask me. And I will not let anyone do to me or my kids what our government did to us ever again. And so, your dad and me put our heads down and we went to work. When no one in this town wanted to hire us after the war, your dad started gardening, and I got a job as a domestic for the Armstrong family. And when Mr. Armstrong, the principal of Tiny Town High, got to know me and saw how hard I worked, he hired me to be his secretary, a job I held for most of my life here in Tiny Town.
So that's how you got that job? Starting as his maid?
Yes, Mr. Armstrong was really good to me all those years.
Glenn picks up a plaque from a box.
Whoa, Sharon. Look at this. For your years of service and dedication to the youth and citizenry of our community, be it resolved that the City of Tiny Town and the State of California hereby recognizes and honors Mrs. Mary Tanaka as our Citizen of the Year.
I remember that ceremony. That was a really big deal, wasn't it, Mom?
Of course, at the time, I told everyone that it was no big deal, really. And I didn't do anything to deserve this. But now that I'm dead, and I don't have to be modest anymore, yes, it was, how you say, a BFD.
Whoa. Did Mom just use a swear word?
I think she did.
Correction, I didn't actually say the word. I'm still Mary Tanaka after all. And Mary Tanaka does not use offensive language. Mary Tanaka is chanto. I do and say things the proper way, just like I taught you two to be.
Chanto. Yes, as in, you must be Chanto. I remember.
Chanto wakarimasen.
I know you don't understand because that's the only Japanese word you know after you were infamously expelled from Tiny Town's Japanese school for throwing a firecracker in the boys' bathroom toilet.
I threw in some dry ice for that real explosive effect. That was really cool.
Oh no, it was not really cool. Shame on you, Glenn Tanaka. Shame on us for that. You have no idea how long it took for me to recover from being called the little pyro's mother. Anyway, this award, my award, was a BFD because it was proof to me and the world that I was not the disloyal Japanese disgrace that I had been made out to be. It was proof that I was indeed a United States Citizen of the Year. This is what I worked for all my life. This is what I was driven to prove. For me, for Dad, for you kids, for Papa.
Say, Mom, it's time for dessert. Where's my dessert?
Chocolate, Dad. I'll be right there. Gotta go, kids. I'll see you later.
Mom exits, leaving Glenn and Sharon alone in the garage.
Sharon, why did you have to go there?
What? What are you talking about?
You know, the fireworks in the bathroom story? Why did you have to bring that up in front of Mom?
Glenn,
Everything was always about you, wasn't it? Wasn't it? You did everything to shine a bright light on everything good you did, but when it came to me, oh, no. Let's just throw good old Glenn underneath the bus again and again.
not this again. Glenn, I don't want to hear
Here's
it.
the truth. You were always the good Japanese girl. I was always the black sheep, the outcast, the one who didn't quite fit in with our community, the one who was always different. Oh yes, that Glenn Tanaka, he's a little different, isn't he? Mom and Dad saved your report cards. They didn't save anything of mine. Mom would backwards brag about you all the time. But when it came to me, it was as if I didn't exist. It was always sharing this, sharing that. I'm sick of it.
You're sick of it? What about me? Did you ever think about me? Oh yes, for the sake of the family and for my own sanity. I have put up with your childish act and your button pushing all our lives, but no more. It ends right here. It ends right now. So now we know, don't we, Glenn? This is all really about you and your feelings being hurt, isn't it?
What are you talking about?
You're hurt, and you resented me all our lives, because as the #1 son in a Japanese family, you're the one who's supposed to be the man. You're the one who's supposed to get all the attention and praise. But no, you chose not to play that role. You chose to be the free spirit and the rebel. But don't you come at me with your sob story about being left out and invisible. With you checking out on us, it was up to me to toe the line and play by the rules. It was up to me to make sure that I didn't bring shame to our family name. Meanwhile, your whole life, you're free to come and go as you please. You're free to make mistakes and do whatever, because yes, everyone did see you as different, and you took full advantage of that. No rules, no worries, you were free. But you better believe those rules applied to me. And when the hammer dropped for Mom and Dad, it was never directed at you, but always at me.
You're so smart, aren't you? You always know what's right, don't you?
Glenn, I just told you. I am not taking your abuse any longer. Ever since we were kids, you did things to take out your anger toward me. That ladder over there, you may have had fun up on the roof, but I remember the time when you were up there playing and you climbed down that ladder and pulled it away from the house and said, "Go ahead, jump." And then you laughed at me and you ran away. I was up on that roof all day until Daddy got home. Yeah, fun. Fun for you, but not for me. But what did you care about me? You may not remember, but I've never forgotten. All the time since then, with your snide comments, your put-downs, you just know the right buttons to push to goad me into one of your stupid arguments, prodding. Always prodding. Well, I'm on to you, my brother, and it has to stop, or...
Or what? You're gonna disown me from the family? Well, go right ahead, because that already happened long ago. In fact, you know what? I'm done here. You can have the house and all the baggage that goes with it. I'm out of here.
You're not going anywhere.
Oh yeah? Just watch me.
Glenn, if you walk out that door, don't ever come back. You hear me?
I'm done, Sharon. Have a nice life.
Glenn starts toward the exit, only to be stopped in his tracks by Mom and Dad.
Stop right there, Glenn.
Dad, let me by. I have to go.
Dad, let him go. Just let him go already.
No. Sharon, don't you see what's happening? Don't you see what's at stake here? This is our family we're talking about. If you let Glenn walk out the door, our family is done. It's over. And we, and both of you, will never be the same.
I already lost your Uncle Teruo. I'll be damned if I lose my son and daughter too.
Dad, you don't understand.
All I need to know is standing right before me, and you are not leaving. Not like this. Not on my watch.
Dad, can't you see? With you, Mom, and all the aunties and uncles gone, there's nothing left to keep us together. There's no reason for us to get together. Especially if all we do is fight with each other.
Glenn, family means everything to us. You kids mean everything to us. And I can't stand to see you like this.
But Mom, if we meant so much to you, how come you never told us?
How come you never said, "Good job, Glenn"?
How come we never even got a hug?
All we ever got was silence.
It's not our way, Sharon. We never got hugs and kisses from your Ji-chan and Ba-chan. They never praised us for anything.
It's not the Japanese way.
But Dad, we're Americans, and growing up here in America got real confusing really fast, with lots of mixed messages. Japanese at home, 200% American outside the home.
But then every time we tried to be American, we were told by people on the outside that we were Japanese.
After you two died, all these questions, all these unresolved issues, all these years I've wondered, why am I so depressed? I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. It nearly drove me off the deep end. That's when I realized I needed help. And so that's when I started seeing a counselor.
What?
I've been people-pleasing all my life, always taking care of everyone except me. And I finally realized I needed to do something for me, to take care of me, before it was too late.
Oh, Sharon, you should have told me. We could have talked.
No, Mom. I didn't want to burden you with my problems. One of the things I learned in therapy was just how much camp affected you, Dad, and everyone in our family.
It was so humiliating, you know, being treated like common criminals like that. We just wanted to forget. We just wanted to...
Mom, we get it now.
There is silence, as everyone realizes the truth is finally out. Initially, no one knows what to say or do. Finally, Sharon speaks.
Mom, Dad, we didn't know. All these years, we didn't know.
We did the best we could, you know.
Mom, it's okay. You don't have to explain.
You were just trying to protect us. It wasn't your fault.
My therapist helped me understand. She helped me work through so many things about our family, about Glenn and about myself.
Glenn, Sharon, do you think for Dad and me, do you think that you and Sharon can go see the counselor together? Maybe it can help if you could talk things out. Maybe if you talk, you can work things out. Maybe it can keep our family together.
Glenn?
Let me think about it, Mom.
Please, Glenn, do this for our family.
Glenn, our family is everything.
Lights fade out as we hear music from the 1940s camp era. In the darkness, cast members and stagehands quickly remove all the boxes and stuff to reveal an empty garage and the wooden frame around it, which looks exactly like the wooden barrack from a World War II Japanese-American concentration camp. Lights up on the family standing in the empty garage, except for one final box.
Oh my. It looks just like a camp and barrack.
That's been with us for over 64 years.
Glenn, Sharon, It's time for us to go.
Okay, Mom. We're almost done here. This one last box.
Glenn opens up the last box.
Oh my God.
What?
Glenn holds up a baseball.
It's my ball. From the catch. Dad saved my ball. From the catch. The catch that won the championship game of the Sunday baseball Town Japanese American the League of America.
A younger dad appears and is secretly celebrating his son's catch of the day.
My son, he made that catch. My son made that catch.
Dad holds up the ball proudly. Lights fade out on Dad. Sharon and Glenn are left inside the empty garage. Glenn is still holding on to his baseball.
Sharon, Dad saved my ball. He actually saved my ball.
Yes, he did. Glenn, about that meeting.
Let's do it.
Thank you, Glenn.
Sharon and Glenn grab onto opposite ends of the garage door and slam it shut. Glenn attaches the padlock. They take a final look at the garage door, turn and start to walk away. Their steps are lighter and their spirits are free. As they begin their exit, they are greeted by smiling Mom and Dad. Dad grabs Sharon's arm, Mom grabs Glenn's arm, and in arm the family exits together as a family. Lights fade to black. End of play.
Let's hear it for Jane, Kurt, Ottawa, Diane, Sean. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Okay. Wow, it's been quite a day for you guys. I know. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to introduce to you somebody.
Or depending on which side you're going from.
Oh, no, thank you. Okay, let's have Dr. Satsuki Ina join us for here she is. So we've done this now 9 times, but never in front of the Tulu Lake pilgrimage, so this is going to be something special, I think. Do you have any opening remarks, any comments that you'd like to make just to get started?
Oh, it's great. Another long day, but watching them tell the stories really brightened my spirits and also got me in touch with the sorrow that we share about what happened to our family.
So one of the things that we talk about, like, as far as the after effects of camp, are the tangible losses. The homes and the businesses, possessions, farms, material items. But talk to us more about the losses that we suffered, what we call the emotional losses.
So I think the play captured a lot of that aside from the material losses, that there was a tremendous loss of faith, that there was a loss of dignity and trust, and a loss in the belief that we belonged to America because we were citizens. And
I think that forever we carried with us this mistrust that we could be safe just being who we are.
So we talk about silence a lot in the play, and you talk to most Sansei and they'll tell you that they grew up with a whole lot of silence in the house, especially when it came to camp. So what is that all about? Why is that so?
Well, it's only fairly recently that the word trauma was even applied to our camp experience. And to be held for indeterminate sentence, to not know where you're going to be, how long, how you're going to be treated, how you'll survive, is actually a form of torture. And part of our coping to survive this constant state of not knowing was when we were released to compartmentalize our experience, particularly our emotions. Because when we were released from camp, the main thing that people were required to do was to fit back in, to not be a threat, to continually prove that we deserved to be back in our homes, back in our country. So captivity trauma in particular is a chronic state of threat to a person. And your brain is wired to help you to survive. And part of that survival is to compartmentalize. It's a different kind of memory that's saved than any other kind of memory. And silence was a coping mechanism. It was a way, many people that I've interviewed and have talked to me about this, silence was to, what people will say consciously is, it was to not burden our children. It was not to have to remember what was so painful. But it was also really essentially the only way that most people could survive, put on their face, find a job. And after the war, many people, still suffered. They were not accepted for jobs and positions. They couldn't get housing. And so that stigmatizing stayed with them for years afterwards. So many people laid their hopes and their dreams on the next generation. And as a result, the silence went into the back of the family dialogue and became more the pressure on the next generation of the need to succeed, the need to belong. And the way to do that was to be the 200% American. So the greatest losses I think we had was the loss of ourself, the ability to just be free and manifest who you were meant to be. That many of us have stayed in camp psychologically for many years. It doesn't mean that we didn't become doctors and lawyers and successful people and manage to have good lives, but there was always that sense, and we actually talked about it in our reflections group last night. There's always this sense of vigilance, and it's a single most symptom of trauma, of long-term trauma. You're vigilant about how safe are you today? How many people are in the room that I can trust? And I'll tell you that this pilgrimage is like home to many of us. That we can look around and see people who knew what our experience was, how we shared that, what it meant to be able to just look at each other and say, and laugh about the things that we had to save afterwards.
So when you talk about trauma, one of the things we've talked about is how it's been physiologically transferred from the Nikkei onto the Sansei without either one of them really knowing. Talk to us a little bit more about that and how that happened.
Well, part of it is a very exciting area of study that's happening. That and the field is called epigenetics, and it's actually there's scientific evidence now that's showing that people who have had particularly chronic state of trauma, that it affects the genes that are produced in the next generation. It's not a change in the DNA, but it's a change in the messaging, that the trauma held by the parents can be re-triggered much more easily in the next generation and even the generation after that. It's still experimental, but there's, Johns Hopkins, these major research areas are looking into this. And so sometimes when I talk to people, they'll say, I don't know why. I don't know why I always feel so like I'm on the bottom of the totem pole, or I don't deserve any successes, or somebody gives me a compliment and I start to feel really awkward about it. That this level of transmission of the trauma is not conscious. And because our parents didn't talk about it, we didn't develop the understanding of our own behavior and how that trauma manifests itself. So I personally feel like if your family was in camp, they suffered trauma. It changed them. It changed how they could have been, how they would have been as parents to you. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Most of our parents did just like Glenn and Sharon's parents. They did the best that they could. And so it's important for us to be able to know that that is part of our family history. So to learn about it, to talk to other people about it, to explore who we are. And most importantly, I think when I've talked to people who come in to talk about their lives and the limitations they feel, it requires taking a risk. That's one of the things that we have avoided, taking a risk, speaking out. And one of the things this pilgrimage does, it's a huge risk to begin talking about how our community got divided, how we got, as no-nos, got stigmatized. And so being here today is part of our healing. Having Soji write this play, how many times do you get to sit in a theater and laugh about something that no one else would get? Kamaboko boards, right? First time I heard the play, I had to go home and throw my kamaboko boards away.
Yeah, hello. Speaking of Tule Lake, and here we are, there's the camp trauma you just talked about, but then there's the trauma of being a Tule Lake descendant or a Tule Lake survivor, their descendants. How do we deal with that? And what has that trauma been like, number one? And then how do we deal with that moving forward?
You always ask these really hard questions. One way, especially captivity trauma, there's lots of literature on this subject. And the perpetrator who is holding people in captivity has a lot of power. One of the things that you feel as a victim in captivity is your loss of freedom, but also your loss of self-efficacy. You can't decide what you're going to have for dinner or when you're going to go to a movie, if there is even a movie. So another way that the government implemented their power is they created this artificial moral standard. The questionnaire questions 27 and 28 divided our community. It fractured generations. And so the artificial moral standard wasn't based on anything real. None of us were disloyal before we went to camp. But now the government had to prove who was going to be able to be released. How do we justify to the rest of the country that we're now going to start releasing some of these people? We're going to draft them into the military. So in order to prove that, we have to find out who's loyal and disloyal. And the way we do it is we ask them 2 questions. And so if you said yes, yes, you were the good guys because you were on the side of the government. If you said no, no, you were the bad guys. And when you're a victim, so powerless, you internalize the message of the perpetrator. And a great example of that is we have continued for decades to use the language that was imprinted on us by the government. We talked about ourselves in relocation centers. We talked about ourselves as evacuees. My mother even referred to herself as a disloyal. She had never been disloyal. So part of that trauma, the healing of that trauma, is to challenge the myths, the misnomers, the way in which the government told our story, and finding our own narrative. And that's what we've been trying to do, right? We've been talking to each other. We've been telling each other what our family experiences. We've heard amazing stories in these last 2 days. This is the true narrative, and it's here in this room. So that victimization that we suffered ends when we start to get really connected to our true feelings. And embedded in that feeling of, besides being the best and the most polite, is also, it's okay to get in touch with your anger. And you know, your anger needs to be constructive. And so today, that demonstration that we had, that was a beautiful example of our healing. Because not only are we standing up for someone else who suffered a similar circumstance, we're actually standing up for ourselves. We're saying we have a voice. We get to tell our story. We get to say no to something that's unjust.
So let's continue with that, relating to what's happening right now, today, and the protests that happened across the country. As Japanese Americans, you know, explain how we have a moral authority and a responsibility, really, to speak out about this.
Well, I can speak about it, you know, from a psychology point of view. We can talk about it from a political perspective and that way. But, you know, when the executive order was made back then, you know, I think about classroom seats being emptied every day. You know, that Japanese kid that was sitting next to you that was gone the next day, the neighborhood where that was a Japanese family, they're gone. You know, there was no protest. There was no march. Nobody stood up for us as an organized protest. And so for us to have a shared voice and to speak out and to protest, we do have not just the moral authority, but the need to heal by feeling and expressing our voices. What's happening today is so resonant about what happened to us, the language that's being used again. And the main theme that we were a risk to national security, we know now that that was a lie. And there's no proof that allowing refugees or asylum seekers into our country is a risk to national security. It's another lie. So that's I can't help it, the political stuff just starts to come out. But the psychology of it is that we free ourselves when we really get clear about our sense of integrity and then can take action. That's the manifesting of our true self, rather than the accommodationist self that we learned over the years to not raise hell, to not oppose, and not to say no. So I really feel like it's important for us as part of our healing as a community. And to do it as a community, that is even more profound. Because you get reflections, you get mirrors, you see other people's faces approving and supporting your right to speak. That's powerful healing.
So what are some steps that we could take? What are some things that we can do?
Well, for me, I've got to learn how to tweet.
I don't know about that.
Well, so let me just say that, you know, our voices have to be heard in so many ways. We have to vote. We have to get our neighbors to vote. We have to share our stories. That is the most important and powerful potential. Your story about your family told to another person who never knew that happened, and being able to relate that to what's happening today. That can change a person's view of what's happening in the world. And when we tell our stories, we influence other people's perspective. So that demonstration that went around the world today on Twitter, on social media, it's a way of showing the rest of the world that we have a collective voice and we oppose what's happening. Yeah.
Okay, so let's open it up for some questions and answers. Do we have a microphone? Sure. Okay. Okay.
The first thing I'd like to say is thank you very much for that play. In my view, it was absolutely brilliant. And thank you very much for your analysis.
Thank you.
Your analysis is incredibly insightful. And needless to say, anytime anybody asks a question, it's because they are implying an answer. My question is do you see a distinction between the psychological, the school of psychology, the discipline of psychology, and the political? And the reason why I'm asking that is the one thing that I would add to your play is for the Nikkei to say to white racist supremacists like myself is, look, I don't expect you to be able to understand what I went through unless you yourself have had a similar kind of experience, because once that door closes on that train and you don't know what's going to happen to you, don't tell me everything is going to be fine. That's one thing. But unless you've experienced something like that yourself, there's no point in my telling you that. But what I can tell you is this. A country, a society, a nation that is not just for everyone is not safe for anybody. And therefore, you have a reason to always feel that fear, because until you change it, there's no distinction between the person that's in jail and the jailer. You're both part of the same problem, and we need to really work on that if we're going to go ahead as a society and as a nation and, quite frankly, as a world.
Thank you.
Because we're at a very important crossroad, and I think that what you've done is just absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your discussion.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I'll try and project also.
Okay.
Your last statement about getting the message out to everybody, convincing the other, if you will. Given that the other in this country right now that seems to would not agree, given where they get their information now and what they believe, which rational people know are flat out lies, how do we change their mind? I'm sure there is a large percentage in this country that'll go, what? What internment? What are you talking about? There are tons of people that don't know. And I suspect some of those people voted for the carrot top in the White House. So my fear is, how do you convince that person who is so ingrained in their thought process, as flawed and illogical as their source information is?
I'll give you a perfect example. Last night we were gathered here and a gentleman stood up and said, "That's bullshit." He has a right to express his opinion. He doesn't have a right to be disruptive and rude. But that would have been a great moment to have a conversation with him. Whatever it is that motivated him, and maybe he's in the room, I don't know. Whatever motivated him, moved him and distressed him. And to be able to sit down, instead of walking away from somebody like that, to sit down and have a conversation. And, you know, the empathy is the most powerful influencer. If you can step outside and put yourself in the other person's shoes and just listen to where they're coming from, I think that's way more powerful than screaming at somebody or shutting the door on them. You know, before I leave this stage, some Japanese person needs to raise their hand.
Hello.
Yes, Lorna. Oh, raise your hand to say something, ask a question, comment.
Would you like to speak to how using art therapy can address some of the transgenerational issues related to trauma our parents and our grandparents? Perhaps highlighting something that might be available for view in the sales room.
Well, no, she's asking a legitimate question because a lot of times people think that healing requires, you know, digging deep and crying a lot, and it isn't necessarily so. And that if you can express whatever it is that's been unexpressed, sometimes it's not through language. It's going to be through music. It's going to be through art. It's going to be through just being with somebody who's willing to listen. So, is there some kind of art book there in the bookstore?
Katrina, I believe my younger sister, who's very more well in tune with herself and her emotions, along with my cousin, who is also in that same ilk, have created 2 pieces that, as a gift to the Thule pilgrims, some of the buses have already received their gift. It's available at your table, and it's free of charge, and what they are doing is dealing with their transgenerational trauma, both being Sansei, but talking about family dysfunction and talking about all of the aspects that are coming up in our store opener. And so I would welcome you to take them. That would give them nothing but joy. And what it does is it shows that they're working through this stuff, and I just yell at people. We have a question here.
So these are postcards and bookmarks, and they tell the story of the grandfather that was killed here when in the middle of a construction in Thule Lake, where he was one of the builders and got crushed in the accident. Okay, yes.
Hi. This might be kind of theoretical, but it was sort of, you know, it made me wonder, what do you think are the differences amongst Japanese Americans whose families did not have the camp experience compared with ours? Are there shared feelings of persecution and shame and so on, or do you think there are real differences?
I think there are differences, but what we do share is that we're a people of color. And as a person of color in America, we do experience at varying degrees trauma of being the other and, you know, facing real life discrimination too. Maybe there's a degree of difference. I remember being my first trip to Hawaii, and you know, I was a cute little thing once.
Still are.
And noticing that these Hawaii boys would be standing on the corner or something like that, and they would flirt openly. Hey, cutie, sister, whatever, right? And it struck me how different that was growing up in J-Town, San Francisco. That kind of risky behavior or sexy behavior even was something that wasn't part of my experience. It was probably a stunning thing.
And we've had people come to this event in various venues, and they talk about, well, my family wasn't in camp, but we didn't really have it very easy either. They talked about their experience of discrimination, of being the face of the enemy, and the things that their families had to face. So yeah, there is that story out there. It just hasn't been told that much, but probably should be.
Hi. Thank you both for a really stimulating discussion here. Great questions and great answers. My mom was Kibe. That family was taken into Tule Lake, but was not here for segregation. But my sister feels very strongly that there's something different about having a Kibe mom in particular. And a lot of the dysfunction that is explored in the play, it really resonates. It seems like, oh yeah, mom was really like that. Mainly towards my sister, not so much towards me. So I was wondering, do you feel like there's anything about the Kibe connection?
Well, both my parents were Kibe, so that's why I became a therapist. You know, so Kibe means that you were born in the U.S., you're an American citizen, and for various reasons were sent back to Japan for your education and then came back to the U.S. So I think that the camp experience created this intense divided loyalty. Not loyalty that meant that, not disloyalty that meant that you were going to sabotage this country or anything, but you know, as Kibes, my parents renounced their American citizenship not because they wanted to leave America, but because they had lost all hope that their lives would be manageable for their children. So they had another choice. They had, so, you know, someone else told me that, you know, if your father's mean to you, you would go to your mother. And so that idea of returning to Japan gave them some comfort. But of course, Japan lost the war and all the things happened, and many of the Kibes who said no and renounced were forced to stay in the US after that. I don't know if that's what happened to your mom, but you could imagine the confusion and the distress a person would feel if they had some ties to Japan and yet were living in the US and incarcerated because they were American citizens. So I think there was a difference. I think there was a heavy burden for the Kibes. And, you know, people talk about the various degrees of, someone used the word terrorism last night, varying degrees of protest in Tule Lake. And there were extremists, and there were certainly incidences of violence by groups of people who identified with Japan. And the sad thing about that was that then anybody who said no was then put into that same category as being violent and being disloyal to America. So, you know, Stan, I'd want to know more about your mom. That will cost you $150.
Okay. Okay, so, right over here.
For years after camp, there was always the question of which camp were you in? I never hesitated to say Poston and Tule Lake, but the reaction always angered me because people would say, oh, you were the bad guys. And that always bothered me all these years. How do we change the attitude that, you know, they've been brainwashed against us all these years, and that has always pissed me off. And I tried in 2012 I came out and I really argued for the no-nos, and that, you know, we were resistors, we were victims of the government, and all these years the community has stigmatized us. Even to this day, you say you were in Tule Lake, oh, they won't say much more, but you know, they think that you were one of the bad ones. I made a presentation last year at the JCL Day of Remembrance, and they were focusing on Tule Lake. And after I made my presentation, trying to say you know, how bad it is that we've been criticized all these years, and the state legislator came to me, he was Japanese American, and apologized. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I had the impression that you guys were the bad guys." And you know, so how do we get the community to understand, you know, our situation and why we made our decisions, and that we were not the bad guys? Many of us were just protesters, really. Right. And I have been told by, and they were Caucasians, they said, you were the only true patriots because you protested against injustice. And I've heard recently, only the second time, someone said, you were the principled people. So how do we change people's attitude?
Well, I think you're answering that. I think we changed the language around it. Instead of the bad boys and the disloyals, we talk about the principled people. We talk about knowing that dissidence is not disloyalty, that people who said no were standing up for the Constitution and their rights. And so I think in the past, your statement is so common. Oh, you were the no boys, you were the bad boys. And then our typical response, because I know this is true for myself, was to be quiet. We can't be quiet anymore. We have to change. That's the government narrative that was imposed on us, and it's up to us to speak our truth now. And so you're giving a talk, you're answering the questions and arguing or presenting your point of view. That's how we begin to change.
I've got...
Right.
Don't call us a no-no. That automatically says, you know, as child you're told, no, don't do this, no, don't do that. So being called a no-no is already automatically
negative, right?
Wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I have just a feeling that you just have to change the way you define what a no-no is. It's always been a bad thing, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing if you change it around. So I'm going to read something that I wrote this morning that speaks directly to what you've just said, and this was not planned at all, but you just assisted me perfectly. So it's called You're One of Those. Which camp were you in? It's a common question asked and answered by Japanese Americans incarcerated by their own government in American concentration camps. Except for people who were at Tule Lake, it was always an uncomfortable question, a question that brought shame and judgment and fear of a negative reaction. Tule Lake, oh, that was the no-no camp for disloyals, troublemakers, traitors. Some just say with disdain or disgust, oh, you're one of those. And then they awkwardly changed the subject. But in 2018, with Never Again happening again, it's time to see things differently. It's time for us to tell the truth. You're one of those who stood up for justice. You're one of those who stood up for our people. You're one of those who had the courage to dissent and protest and say no. You're one of those who we now call our American heroes. So I hope that helped you. I hope it helps all of us. We have to start changing the narrative. and really speaking out as to what the no-no position was all about. And it especially fits in with what's happening. Resist, right? That's what's happening today. And that's exactly what the no-nos were doing. It's very clear, I think, to most Americans that they could see that that's what was going on. It's just a few within our own community still who are still locked into that brainwashing, you know, and I don't know how to really stop that or to change that. But for us, we have to, you know, define ourselves differently, truthfully.
And we're going to close now, right? So I think it's really important for us to speak up for other people, too. You know, we can't just be talking to each other. We need to reach out, and we need to support and resist and join others to say no. That's our democratic right to do that. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.